Hey guys! Bored of those vocab lists? Me too. At 1 Degree North Companion, we're turning Wordly Wise into an adventure to make learning actually interesting. Let's jump in.
You know, sometimes the most profound wisdom isn't found in some stuffy textbook, but in the oldest stories, the ones passed down through generations. Today, we're going to step into a classic East African folktale that's going to challenge our very idea of what justice even is. I know, it sounds completely absurd, right? But just stick with me on this one. This very question is right at the heart of our story, and the answer? Well, it's pure genius. It really makes you rethink what it even means to steal something. All right, so our story kicks off in a small East African village. We've got two men who live as neighbors, but believe me, their worlds could not be more different. So picture this. On one side, you have the Tajiri. He's a rich man, but he's known for being incredibly stingy. He's enjoying these big, hearty, delicious meals every single night. And then, right next door, you've got the Maskini, a poor man who's just getting by on the simplest food imaginable. And it's this huge difference that really lights the fuse for the whole story. So here's the crime, if you can call it that. Every evening, the Maskini would just sit outside the Tajiri's kitchen, and these wonderful, delicious smells would come wafting through the window. For the poor man, just getting a whiff of that was enough to make his plain old porridge feel like a total feast. Well, one night, the rich guy spots him. He sees the Maskini take this long, deep breath, and this look of pure bliss just washes over his face. And the Tajiri, he is absolutely furious. How dare this poor man steal his smells? So what does he do? He has the Maskini grabbed and thrown in jail. And just like that, the whole matter is brought before the village court. Now, this isn't just any old trial. It's a real test of the community's wisdom, and it all happens in a very, very special place. Okay, so before the trial can even get started, the court has to summon the poor man. And summon isn't just, a casual invite. It's a formal order to appear, and it carries the full weight and authority of the community. And so, there he was, brought from his cell to face his accuser and the village elders, the very people who were about to decide his fate. Now, this is super important. This trial wasn't going to be swayed by who had more money. The elders, who were deeply respected for their wisdom, they pledged to judge the case based only on its merits. That means the actual, cold, hard facts of what happened, with no emotion or prejudice involved. That was their promise to everyone. To look right past the rich man's wealth and the poor man's poverty, and to find the real truth of the matter. And get this, it really paints a picture of the setting. They don't go into some stuffy, formal building. Nope. They gather under a giant baobab tree. In so many African cultures, the baobab is this sacred spot, a place for community meetings and for justice. It's a living symbol of wisdom. So, after they talk it over, the chief gets ready to address the crowd. Now, this word address, it means more than just giving a speech. It's for a formal, really important declaration. It's kind of like, think about Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. We call it an address for a reason, right? It's for those big, significant moments. The entire village is there, just waiting. You can probably hear a pin drop. Everyone's holding their breath for the verdict he's about to deliver. All right, so what's the great punishment for stealing a smell? The moment we've been waiting for has finally arrived. And let's not forget what's on the line here. The Tajiri has demanded the Maskini's only real possession, his single goat, as payment for those stolen smells. I mean, this would absolutely ruin the poor man. And then the chief delivers the verdict. The Tajiri should not be given the goat. However, in the interest of fairness, he should have the right to smell the Maskini's goat whenever he wants. Just let that sink in for a second. I mean, at first, that sounds just as ridiculous as the accusation, doesn't it? But buried inside this strange ruling is a really deep and profound wisdom. So, what on earth made this judgment so perfect? Okay, here's where the genius comes in. The elders matched the punishment perfectly to the crime. The so-called theft was of something you can't touch or hold. It's intangible, right? A smell. You can enjoy it, but you can't possess it. So the payment had to be intangible too. The right to smell the goat is the perfect payment for the pleasure of smelling the food. It's just this beautiful, elegant example of balanced justice, and the entire village got it immediately. They knew it was wise. But wait, there's more. This story is so much richer than just a clever ending. It's actually woven with these amazing layers of culture and language. Even the names of our characters are a huge clue. In the Swahili language, Tajiri literally means rich man, and Maskini literally means poor man. This is a classic move in folktales. The characters are named for their roles in the story, representing these bigger ideas about wealth and poverty, and of course, justice. And the wisdom of this story, believe it or not, is even baked right into the language itself. Remember how the Maskini was inhaling the smells? Well, that word comes from a Latin root, halare, which just means to breathe. The prefix in means in. So what about its opposite? The prefix ex means out. And just like that, you know the meaning of exhale. It's a little thing, but it shows how language itself is built on this kind of elegant balance. So what's the big takeaway from all this? At its heart, this tale has a message that's just timeless. Real justice isn't always about harsh punishments or getting revenge. It's about finding that creative, proportional balance that makes things fair again for everyone involved. All right, so let's wrap this up with a little challenge for you. Imagine you're one of those village elders. A person who's known for being extremely stingy is brought before your court. Using at least 3 of the words from our story today, how would you handle the case? What kind of verdict would you come up with? It's a great reminder that wisdom, kind of like a scent on the wind, can travel through time and reach us today.
Hope you guys enjoyed that last lesson. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Ready for more? The next one starts right now.
Today, we journey back in time to explore one of the most astonishing structures ever conceived by human hands. Now, this isn't just a story about bricks and mortar. It's a saga of incredible ambition, of deep-seated fear, and of the sheer, unbreakable will of an empire. All of it carved right into the face of the earth. Just imagine, for a second, that you're floating high above the clouds, looking down at this stone serpent snaking its way across mountains and valleys. It's a barrier, a deliberate scar on the landscape, and it stretches for an unbelievable 1,500 miles. It's a distance that's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. And that, right there, is the crucial question, isn't it? What on earth could motivate a ruler to pour the entire strength, the entire wealth of a nation into a project this massive, especially out here on such a desolate and remote frontier? Why build this wall? Well, to even begin to answer that, we first need the right words. We need the vocabulary to really grasp its sheer scale. You see, the story of the wall is written in its dimensions, and if we learn its language, we can unlock the emperor's grand design. So let's start with this word, vast. It means something of immense, almost unimaginable size. And honestly, it's the perfect word to describe the empire that the first emperor, Shi Huangdi, had just managed to unify. An empire so huge, defending it was a constant, nagging challenge. And this number, this really puts that word vast into perspective. The wall itself covered 1,500 miles. That's not just a big number. It's a physical declaration of an empire's power, a line drawn across the world. Okay, so we've got the mind-boggling length. Now let's kind of zoom in from its length to its width, or what we call its breadth. Because the breadth of this wall is just as impressive. This was no mere line of stone. And what's really cool is how this gives us a human scale. The top of the wall was nearly 20 feet wide. That means 10 people could literally walk side by side or abreast right along the top. This thing wasn't just a wall, it was a military highway. Oh, and here's a quick but fascinating little detail our source material points out. While Beijing was the capital city with an AL, the emperor's actual government building would be a capital with an OL. A handy way to remember that is to think of the O in the word dome. Okay, language lesson over. Let's get back to that frontier. All right, so now that we have the vocabulary to describe the wall's incredible scale, let's dig into that huge question, why? Why build it? The story really begins in a time of chaos, with a brand new empire feeling very, very threatened. You see, before the wall, there wasn't a unified China. It was this fractured land of what the text calls petty kingdoms. And that word petty says it all, right? They were small and their concerns were minor. And these local warlords were constantly feuding, locked in these bitter quarrels that just weakened everybody. And this timeline, wow, it really puts it all into perspective. Just look how fast things changed. You have centuries of these petty kingdoms fighting. Then, boom, 221 BCE, Shi Huangdi takes control of the entire country. And just 7 years later, this monumental project begins. Talk about a dramatic shift from fighting each other to a massive unified effort. So here's the crucial point. After uniting the country, the emperor's main problem totally flipped. The internal fights were over, but now he had to defend that vast northern frontier, the very edge of his settled land, from external attacks. The threat wasn't from within anymore. It was from the outside. A threat that big demanded a grand design. But this wasn't an age of machines. This was an empire of stone and wood, and its greatest projects had to be built by human hands, through effort that is just unimaginable to us today. And who provided all this labor? The peasants. Hundreds of thousands of people who worked the soil were conscripted, pretty much forced to leave their farms and their families to make the emperor's vision a reality. They were the engine that built the Great Wall. The human cost here is just staggering. I mean, really think about this. Not only were they forced from their homes, but the wheelbarrow hadn't even been invented yet. Every single block of stone, every piece of timber had to be carried on the workers' backs. The sheer physical toll is almost beyond our comprehension. So how in the world did they do it? The keyword here is utilize. They just made use of whatever was available. This wasn't some uniform cookie-cutter construction. In the mountains, they utilized stone. In the forests, timber. And out on the flatter plains, they packed earth and sand with twigs to create these solid ramparts. The wall literally adapted to the land it crossed. And it's so important to get this. The Great Wall wasn't just a passive barrier. It was an active military defense system. It was studded with fortresses and watchtowers, all built to house the emperor's soldiers, ready to defend that frontier at a moment's notice. So, what is the ultimate legacy of this incredible feat of engineering and human will? Well, it's much more than just a tourist attraction. It stands as this powerful symbol of what a unified people can achieve, for better or for worse. Ultimately, it all comes down to this one word: ensure. To make certain. Every stone was laid, every fortress was built to ensure the safety and security of this newly unified empire against any threat from the outside. It was the world's largest insurance policy, written in stone. You know, Shi Huangdi did a lot of things. He improved the government, built roads and canals. But as our source text concludes, his greatest achievement, the single thing for which he is forever remembered, is the Great Wall of China. It became his eternal monument. And that leaves us with a final thought. The Great Wall was a physical barrier built to protect an empire. So I'll ask you this. To protect something you truly value, what invisible barrier would you build? How would you ensure its safety across a vast frontier? A fascinating question to think about.
Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.